is democracy is the way that the high bourgeois in France try to get the power of the aristocracy in France, without giving anything to the third state. So it's one of the biggest scam ever. I mean, the idea is very easy. You need to have a huge amount of people which lives in poverty in order to keep and sustain the part who will be rich. And that's basically it. And democracy has always been administrated by the bourgeois, by the medium high bourgeois, because they have the tools, they have the. But if you have to work in a mine for 12 hours a day, you don't have any political interest. If you have to basically go far on a farm and stay 24 hours on a farm taking care of cattle, the land, and whatever, how big can I mean how what part of your life will be dedicated to the idea of liberty, equality, and whatever? You have to survive. So democracy is a good thing if you're in the right part of the chart. If
Well,
you're
I
not,
think the problem that we've been kind of off and on today, and it keeps popping up, which is a sore point of the United States, is the incident that just occurred. But again, if we go back to that that precedence of lawsuit that we were reading about this morning, which Nick said is probably one of the most biggest lawsuits discussed in law school, is Jordan versus New England, and that's when they determined that they are not allowed to hire intelligent people for law enforcement jobs. They're just not. In fact, they are encouraged not to hire people with high level intellectual properties, and that is a problem. And the other problem we have is transparency. But technology, and this is why I'm glad Abhijit is here, technology has given us that leverage, right? People were able to film it. We have substantial evidence to support situations that we've never had before. But I would like to welcome to our IBM TV show, Holmes Stoner. Welcome.
Hello.
Can you hear us?
Great. How are you?
Hi. Wow, I am surprised.
I'm very happy. Very happy to meet everyone.
Well, Holmes and I don't think he remembers this because he meets so many just really fabulous people in his career. But we met back in December at a Miami event. And then I think moving forward, I might have met you again just in quick crossing because you're everywhere. And then all of a sudden, I see your name listed with a very good friend of mine, Henning Morales, on a poster. Oh my God, I keep bumping into this man. I have got to sit down and have coffee with him. He's just everywhere. So then I realized that you're part of Henning's team, which is always just, I love watching Henning do things because he just gets the best teams. But welcome.
Well, thank you. I know Henning because we are working together. I'm on several different film projects. One being the Asian Film Festival that we do every year. And then on the Family Film Awards here in Hollywood for family films. So Henning and I are very dear friends.
Well, and you are in the film industry, and I'm going to let you share with our team here. And our team shifts throughout the day. We got all these different kinds of, just people coming in. But we have Abhijit from India and Roberto from Italy. And one of the things I love about India is I learned that they only have two religions there: Bollywood and cricket. Bollywood and cricket. And I've been on this, doing this show since March 4th, I think it is. Ankit might come back and correct me. But those are the two things I've learned about India and love, is because they put so much into their film industry, which is still a thriving industry even through this COVID problem. How do you feel that the U.S. is doing with the situation in the film industry?
Well, I'm the chairman of the Pacific Rim Business Council and the American International Chamber of Commerce. So yes. I see things myopically. I see them through the eyes of the small businesses. We have over 500,000 small businesses that we have as participants in our organization from here to Mumbai. So seeing things from an American perspective is a bit hard for me, seeing that we're in 22 countries and in over 50 cities. So I see things more of a outside the United States perspective. But as the United States perspective, as far as the film industry is concerned, we see that probably as we move into the 21st century and we start sustaining ourselves with our new facts of life, we're going to see this business morphing dramatically into digital, into smaller events, into a lot more satellite transmission, where we are going to internationalize the film industry much more so than before. And Bollywood being a very strong part of that, as well as Chinese producers and Chinese super colossal King Kong type movies. These are in the horizon. They're coming, and they're coming very quickly. And the Americans have to start realizing that no matter how they want to retreat and kind of retrench themselves as being the hallmark of the industry, this industry has gone digital. And when it went digital, it means it went international. So all these different cultures have all this talent and all this amazing creativity that they're bringing to the fore. And we have to learn to live with it and meld it all together and make sense of it all and start understanding it and communicating more effectively.
No, and you make I think the biggest word you just said is communicate, right? We need to be more, yes. You could have said a better word today. Go ahead.
You have people here from Italy, people here from India, okay? People here from all over the world that are meeting with you and speaking their mind. We're communicating as people, and we're using that technology that has been given to us, and we're trying to make the best of it, okay? And the thing about it is, it has good parts and it has bad parts. But the fact of the matter is, when you have the ability to communicate properly with people one-on-one or one-on-three or whatever the case may be, you're breaking down those barriers, okay? And when you start retreating and closing yourself off is when the problems begin.
And that's true. And one of the biggest things that we have to do now is, as much as ever, is a favorite phrase of mine from the Japanese when I worked with them for many years, is we have to open our kimonos and keep them open right now. We have to open your kimono. I picked that up, and it just made sense to me that if we're just transparent and open with each other, it's amazing what can happen. But one of the things I've enjoyed about IBM TV is that it has been so global. We have had people from all over the world, and just I hate saying everyday people because they're all top in their professions, right? But we're not politically driven. We're all about this, right? And how can we solve the problems? We're not here on a political campaign. And I think that's one of the things I've enjoyed about what we've been evolving is the conversations that pan around that. Share with our team a little bit more. You kind of gave a little opening of who you are and what you do, but share more about what your job entails.
I have a question, quick one from Mr. Holmes.
Okay.
Yes.
I have a very small question. Is about in this pandemic, when the world is living inside their home, inside their houses, the intake and consumption of video and Netflix and everything which we see on the phone or internet or YouTube has tremendously increased. And in this increase,
yes,
also the supply has also at the same time increased. Lots of webinar invitation which we give daily, we do not attend, that's another matter. But in this, quality of content has gone down, and plenty of new content which is irrelevant, which somebody is trying to say something, maybe there are very few people who are willing to even listen it. So that has also came into about a number of webinars and videos. In this scenario, how do you look that the entertainment industry, particularly the phone entertainment industry, I don't know what is the exact terminology of Netflix and Amazon Prime, what we call it in the industry, but how is it going to respond to the content and people who are creating content, since the content has increased this much, how they will cope up with the competition in this time?
That is a very big issue, and in the fact that policing content is becoming nearly impossible. Just look at YouTube. YouTube has close to 1 billion pieces of information that they just disseminate every single day. How are people supposed to police 1 billion pieces of content?
Sorry, I haven't asked for policing. I have asked how they are going to meet with the competition between each of them, because people are so fed up with lots of content, and we want to hear or see or let any video with a very high input quality. It is obvious because of lockdown. So not policing.
You mean to try to do an SEO on the content, right?
How
does one do an SEO on movie content? That I couldn't tell you. That would be a quandary for me. I wouldn't understand on how to do that, seeing that there's so much volume. Every country in the world, including the Philippines, is making a movie every day. Mexico makes up 2 movies a day. Even Puerto Rico is making a movie a day. People all over the world are film crazy. Okay, they're involved with this. I know, because I do the International Film Festival. Last year we could only take so many films that wanted to compete, and we had 570 films that we had to take. How are you supposed to see 570 films in a week? Physically impossible. So
serious binge watching, right?
Everything comes into microseconds, and you got to say, you can't really judge the value or the content because you don't have enough time. It's too much information, and I don't really know how to answer your question, but hopefully we'll figure out a way to do that.
And those are some things that we're talking about. I do want to talk about some of the policing topics that you were bringing up, because that is curious to me, because there's a lot of that going on. How are they? I mean, I know they're using artificial intelligence, but are they enforced by government to do the policing?
Normally, yes. Normally you have, if you get into countries like India, like China, Philippines, Japan, Korea, at least different countries that we work in, we have offices there. So we have these things coming and going in and out. And normally they'll have some kind of sensors that will, filter that information out, because there are a lot of things there that are acceptable in one place and not acceptable in another. So you're going to need to police that. So they'll have, as you said, some AI in there, but a lot of filtration systems through their server systems, where they will look at keywords or they will look at phrases, and then they'll ferret these things out as much as they can. Some countries are very strict about that content, and other countries are wide open about that content.
Right. I mean, go ahead, Ankit.
No, I mean, we all know that AI will play a bigger role in our future policies, both with the government side as well as on the other side of the world, where people are looking for loopholes. And AI can monitor each and every person, be it the gadgets, be it the keywords, because since the time we started using 5G, that means you are in the monitoring process, and you can't hide out yourself from those gadgets. We are very excited to use those drones, those mobile phones, and all those things. And these are all the policing tools made for bigger companies and for government. And that they will make decisions based on all those, whatever data they can collect, and then based on that, they will take the decisions. So that's going to happen, and we know about it.
Let me ask you, how is your experience with 5G so far?
So I just used 5G when I was in South Korea, and the technology looks good because because of the way the internet works on 5G. But apart from that, if you just do some research about 5G, it's scary because you are always on the CCTV camera monitoring. People are watching you, catching you, and a lot of things going around. If you talk about cybersecurity, we are using Netflix and all those things, and we have smart TVs. And using 5G, I can play a camera on your smart TV, and I can watch what you are doing.
It's
so a lot of things.
5G is hackable, not secure.
So Kim, it's not about hackable. People like us have developed 5G, so we know how to crack it, and people crack it for their own purposes.
I felt like 5G. So 5G was supposed to solve a particular problem in the tracking industry as well, not just easy for hackers to get in because they didn't close off certain gaps that they should have. And this is my background in engineering for over 35 years, is building out telecom networks. And was curious. Everybody always came to me about this particular problem. One of the problems that most networks had is they could not track Z access, right? And that in itself is a huge, great step to meet if you want to provide better security solutions. But as you said, with every technology comes good things and evil, right? So you have to be very, very careful when you open that door, that there's always a Pandora box of evil that it can be available for. One of the things I did in one of my inventions was go ahead and solve the Z access problem before 5G came out. But that's not what happened with 5G. It ended up, to me, and you might have a different answer, Holmes, but I felt like that it became a bigger open door problem.
So where do you think it's going? Where do you think 5G, where's 5G taking us?
So I think it's taking us to bigger opportunities, the more open doors. And that's the reasons why we have more open doors to hacking. But where do you think? I know where it was intended, but where do you think it's going?
Well, I know that one of my businesses, I make steel framed housing, and we do affordable communities, smart housing, things like that. And the 5G is very handy for what we're trying to do, because it does everything from security to appliances. I mean, everything that the future as we see it electronically, 5G is very handy. But what you were saying about hacking and about radiation and all these things that you hear from the outside, I was very curious about that to see. You've got the yin and the yang. You've got these two, as you say, the good side and the bad side. I'm just trying to figure out which is more equitable. Are there more bad things or more good things about it?
Well, so
I'll tell you something.
Go ahead.
So it's a simple thing. If you use 5G in a democratic way, it's good. But if you use it in the other side of the world, it's bad. So now you can imagine how you have to use it, and you are in which part of the world. That's it.
Good answer. Good answer.
Yeah, and that's what I guess Ankit was writing, because we talk about this a good bit, that cybercrime is what, $8.6 billion. So for the hackers, I guess it's a pretty lucrative business. It's going to be lucrative for the good people too, because there's so many good things we can do, right? It's going to improve our ability to track for security, not security against crime, but just for security of your own employees, because that's what solving the Z access was to help solve certain problems. Your smart home.
Kim, there is one more thing. Kim, there is one more thing. We are not talking about something which is very important, and that is hardware. We all use mobile phones, and all the data are in the phone right now. Okay, so whenever I change my phone, I transfer the data from the old phone to the new phone. But what happened to the data which is there on the old phone? And then we just scrap it. Okay, and then people take those phones. There are a lot of companies who buy old phones and then they manufacture new phone out of the old phone, and that way they are doing their businesses. And now when you are scrapping your phone, a lot of companies are taking the data from the phone and then they are utilizing it in n number of ways. So whenever you install an app, you give your access to all those
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So when you store an app on the phone, even if you clean your phone, this is what I was going to tell people too. Even if when you clean your phone, that's not designed to clean everything. So you got to really almost like fry your phone so they can't get the. But you gave them. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bump into Ankit, but he's right. They the apps alone are still there for them to access. So
all my phone data are here right now. Whatever phone I've used, I put the data in here.
Well, but the thing is that, but a lot of people don't understand that, the Bluetooth it has been an open door for every one of our devices since the day one that it was built. It was engineered and designed for you to be able to do short way communications, but there was always half of it opened, so they could do other things. Well, that open gateway was something that hackers knew more about than the common person or even engineers to be able to utilize. So, with 20 billion devices out there, we've just opened up 20 billion open doors to the hackers. But it's a, $8.6 billion industry. And this is what I had a conversation about at two of the universities where I sit on the board for science and for cybersecurity, is that the people who are in the hacking world, they have more incentive to do this because financially it's a bigger gain, whereas we're paying our people $100,000 a year to fight the crime, maybe $40,000 a year to fight the crime. A hacker can easily make $1 million. Who's got more incentive here, right? So it's, I speak at the law enforcement on this as well in the cybersecurity industry, and it's quite interesting when you put that in place.
Of cybersecurity, because by 2020, India would have 800 million smartphone users. So you can imagine the size which we will have to manage, and every smartphone is a potential threat to bank fraud and to a cyber hacking. So particularly we will be on the channel, and India again would be a very huge market for the content which Mr. Holmes is developing. So it was pleasure talking to all of you.
Yeah, because Abhijit is big into smart technology. So the two of you need to make a connection sometime. That's what his world is smart technology for lives, quality of life. So
well, then we segue over to the financial part of it, where everything is going digital financially, and you take the entire world financial market as we see it, and it's got to sustain itself. The old way, the old currency ways, the old Wall Street model has become passé. Basically, you're looking at people around the world looking for an alternative. From crypto over to Forex exchanges on how to readjust or to make the new currency for the new world. I'm curious to find out how that's going to interplay with this 5G.
Well,
if you can hack into it, if you can hack into it, you can make billions.
Well, so a lot of things, and I don't know, maybe we can sit down, and this is a way, way big conversation as well, just on its own.
No, but Kim, we can discuss about that on our payment show, which happened on Wednesday, 1 p.m. EST. So we have someone from the payment industry. They discuss about how the payment industry will change in future and what happened to the technology and how we can work it out and what are the best ways to secure your payments.
So we have a FinTech show on Wednesdays, and FinTech is definitely, the way we're moving to maybe you got your cryptocurrencies, and then you had FinTech, and then how do you merge the two so that you can regulate it? And, a lot of people have been trying to do that, but what do you do? Right. But smart cities, if you've ever attended, I'm sure you have a lot of smart city conferences. I've seen technology that was totally invasive, where they have little microchips, this is smaller than the tip of your fingernail, that goes onto every light bulb that goes into your refrigerator. I've seen it. I was in the development lab with them. And what is the intended purpose? To watch somebody open up their refrigerator door, right? Abhijit. Thank you. So, And Abhijit is in the smart technology world as mainly in transportation and mobile, but a lot of things he does evolves into the smart living environments, which, you know, there are so many ways we could take this and do a lot of good. And of course, there's going to be so many ways it's used for evil. I'm going to do a book on that, right? The good and evil. But how do we, what is your opinion, Holmes? And because you're doing these smart homes, and I want to show you some technology that I have that would integrate with some of your smart homes. But how can we make things better? Because this is what you do every day, not because you do it as a business councilman as well, which, you know, to hear your voice and to discuss some of the things that we can do at this level is very appreciative.
My whole vision in my life as it exists today is to kind of create a situation, a pathway, if you will, for sustainability in the 21st century. The people behind me and the generations behind me, I want to try to do something so that the everyday person, the people out there that are kind of disjointed from what we're doing today, because the disparity between the haves and the have-nots have created a huge chasm or a big channel in between. And the idea is to bring that technology, as we're talking smart technology, into the hands of the everyday person. The guy driving the little economy car. Now you see the economy cars with all kinds of things, like the GPS and all kinds of things in a car that they paid $10,000 for. So that is a very smart way of taking this technology and putting it into the mobile phones, putting it into the automobile, putting it into their shelter, okay, and having them communicate with each other, making life more convenient, more efficient for the average person. You know, obviously anybody with a lot of resources and money can have anything they want. Yes. But to get something into the hands of the average person in India, the average person in China, the average person in Bolivia, the average person in Brazil, to put it in their hands and teach them how to use this technology so that they can sustain themselves in the future. As this population expands and the resources contract, people have to learn how to sustain themselves. And this technology that we're trying to develop is trying to make that happen, okay? That's the whole system, is sustainability in the 21st century. And that's what we're trying to do around the world with all the small businesses, giving them devices, giving them access to technology so they can survive, they can sustain themselves. That's the whole purpose.
You know, your mission is it's so interesting that our paths kept crossing, and your mission is so much like Nick and mine's. When we first started, I first started working with Nick on a TV show called Money Masters 4 years ago, before we started this network. The mission of the show was to close the gap between poverty and sustainability. That was the mission of our show, and that gap is financial literacy. We've changed the word to financial fitness because we found out that people think literacy is boring. So we're trying to find financial fitness programs. One of the things that I've been asked today from a viewer is, you know, how can I sustain when I am a single mother who graduated from college with a student loan debt so high I can't afford housing, and my child's disabled? How do I get out of this mess? Because I'm working 3 jobs. I'm not able to get a job in the industry that I studied my college education for. So what you're talking about is providing affordable housing, because even college students can't afford it. But one of the things we fail to teach people is how to sustain. We don't teach it in school. We don't teach it in elementary school. We don't teach it. And that's why Lynn is part of this, is he donates to our financial literacy program for financial fitness and smart teaching. So,
I was going to say, Holmes said 2 words. All the technology is great, and getting the technology in the hands of the people who need it is great. But there are 2 words that he said: teach and learn.
That's right.
Because you can give people all the technology that so if somebody gets this, and all they learn how to do is to correspond using social media. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that kind of stuff. And they learn how to make a phone call. It doesn't necessarily take the technology and narrow, as you're trying to do with Money Masters, as I'm trying to help you do, narrow the gap between poverty and financial sustainability. And I think there's a lot that still has to go to narrow that gap. And that's why I feel very strongly about supporting Money Masters, because that's the mission.
Thank you.
And so anyway,
we've had some good conversations today about that as well. We had one of the professors from Yale Economics Department, and he was the dean, bring up the 12 problems we're faced with today because of COVID. So I think what I like about Holmes is he's a problem solver. Let me get that one. Solved the problems, but he's not going to just talk about it. And that's, I think, I've watched you on it several times in talking with people who have mentioned your name, that you're out there solving the problem. You're not just talking about it. And that's one of the things I respect about what you're doing as a business councilman is, hey, we can sit here all day and talk about it. We got to get out there and do something. And the biggest problem is housing, right? When I listen to this mother reach out to me going, how can I fix this problem? I have done everything right, and yet I can't get one step ahead. And I talk about this daily, that we indentured slave all of our youth from college. They all owe more in their college debt than they will to buy a house. Mm-hmm. And it's now COVID. And this is one of the reasons why the professor's on the show with us too, is we're globally talking about, it was a really cool conversation today. We're globally talking about how do we get these students out there to get jobs, because they're not going to be able to afford housing, which this is, Holmes is solving that problem. And Holmes,
well, I have a little input in that part of the equation. Okay, sure. What's happened here, and particularly in the United States and the rest of the world being educated, all of their leaders, most of these countries around the world that I'm in, that I interact with, most of these countries in the world have leaders that are in different levels of their governments, including India, including China, including Latin America. If you interview most of the people that are leading these countries, you'll find that almost a third of them graduated from some major American university. Okay, most of them. These people are running these governments in different parts of the world, but they were educated in the United States or in the UK or in Australia or New Zealand, a Western country. Okay, so they have been trained by the highest levels in Princeton, Harvard, Stanford, Berkeley, of the highest minds of the United States have taught these people, and they went back to their country and implemented what they learned. Okay, so I don't know why the Americans are so crazy about foreigners being in this country, seeing that we've educated the world, and now we're so shocked that they've grown so fast, and they've become affluent, and they've become technology savvy and whatnot. So I don't know why the shock, but the fact of the matter is that because of that, because of the influence by the Western training, the Western educational system, is now that these places, like especially in Asia, that have always been taught their students more of a memorization type educational process, where you have to excel and be top 10%. Okay, take the test, memorize the test, right? Where in America, in the Western side, it's comprehension. I might get a C, but I still know how to do brain surgery, okay? Because I remember. If you get into this memorization and this maximization program, you'll find that 10% of people that came to the top a year later forgot everything they learned because they just memorized it. They didn't comprehend it, okay? It didn't stick in their head. And now, since most of these people have come and been educated the last 20 years and supported our big universities, and these universities have thrived from all the people coming in from around the world. Now they are the diaspora, if you will, running the world. Okay, and they're thinking comprehensively instead of the other way. So we're looking at this morph. The world is changing every day, and the people want it to stay the same. They want to retreat, go back. I liked it the way it was before. Well, I'm sorry, you let the cat out of the bag, okay? And he's running all over the place, right? And you trained him, you taught him, you taught her, okay? Now you're going to have to live with it. Now that's what I'm seeing as the challenge for the 21st century, is trying to put it all back together, okay?
Right.
Because it's with shelter. You got people out here in Venice Boulevard, hundreds of them, sleeping on the sidewalk. You got 1,000 veterans in front of the Veterans Hospital in Westwood, okay, sleeping in the park, 1,000 of them in tents. This is the United States of America, okay? It starts with shelter. Shelter gives you some kind of human dignity, whether it's a little tiny place or a great big place. The fact of the matter is, until you have some kind of permanency, something you can call your own, a roof over your head that will shelter you from the cold and the snow and the rain, you have nothing. You have no identity. You have nothing, okay? So I've dedicated my life to shelter first, and then you build around the shelter, okay? Then you just make the shelter better, better, better. Give somebody purpose, some people reason, hope. That's what they need. Hope is the magic word. No matter what country it's in, okay? They need hope. We have to give them hope.
They need to, instead of saying, you know, we always use the term the light at the end of the tunnel. I always say, if you take your flashlight with you, right, even when the lights go out, you'll find your way to the end of the tunnel.
There
So
you go.
that's you know, Girl Scout, right? So you learn to be prepared.
I'll just add the point what Holmes said from India, that a lot of our politicians, they have studied in the United States, but what happened is that a lot of our neighboring countries, those people, they're coming to study in India. That is also a part of the same globalization, what you call. And also the top leader of India, I mean, I don't know, but very few of them are educated in terms of, in terms of they have graduated from big colleges, but they have that political knowledge because they are serving the country, or they are doing it social work since 40, 50 years or so, and they know how to build it. And they are in government model since they were teens, or maybe starting their early age. And that experience made them doing all those things. And also a lot of our Indian scholars, they go to United States as a professor, and they teach in big universities, maybe Harvard, Stanford, or things like that. And that is also part of globalization, because they are sharing their best practice from India and going to US and teaching to the world audience, and vice versa as well. I don't have the fact or data, but a lot of these scholars from around the world, they go to United States just to be a professor in a big university. And that is also a part of sharing the culture around it. But the matter of fact is that I think United States are not able to consume most of them and utilizing in their political situation. But what happens is that people, when they go out from India to there, and then they come back, they share the best practice, and then we implement it in our country. That's what's happening around. So it's a part and parcel of what Holmes is saying. But eventually, when you talk about shelter homes, I think that smart home and shelter home is something which we have to take care of, and we also sustain people that how they can produce their own food. If they can produce their own food and they have a shelter, they are good to go. And when you talk about smart solutions and smart homes, we also have to think about infrastructure, which is a digital infrastructure. Because if someone is having an internet in a rural area like Africa, that person is capable to attend or maybe make a lot of calls or communicate to the world. Because without internet, it's not difficult. And also, an internet can serve a person in education as well, because with the internet, that person can learn what's happening in big universities and colleges, and they can learn themselves. So internet in terms of infrastructure is very important. That it should not be a luxury, it should be a need, and it should be a part of our basic home solution. That's what I believe.
I agree. I agree with you 100%.
I think it's a common problem around the world that it's going to have to be addressed moving forward after this situation is the affordable home. And how are you doing it? I mean, so you've got a company, you've had it. Share with us a little bit about what you're doing with the affordable home.
Well, what we've basically done is digress back to the basics. Basically, and with the room you're sitting in, and I'm sitting in is a box. It's a rectangle. Okay, it's a box. Now, whatever that box is made from, whether it's plastic or if it's cardboard or brick or whatever that building is made out of, is up to you. It's the building material that makes the difference. Okay, the building material is what will sustain human beings far into the future. As long as you're using building materials that are toxic, that are non-recyclable, that are not biodegradable, you're just creating refuse. You're creating trash that can't, that's just going to pile up and create this carbon in the atmosphere that's just going to make things warmer and exacerbate the problem. So what we basically have done is we cut steel. Steel is the most prevalent mineral on the planet. We've got 21 miles deep of iron ore in our planet. And in fact, the core of our planet is molten steel, is molten iron, okay? We are an iron planet, okay? So this is the most readily available mineral on the planet. So we take this mineral that's recyclable, we can melt it down, make it into something, make it into different shapes and different sizes. So we take this material and we make a frame out of it. These are containers, so we don't use containers. We make frames, okay? We make boxes.
Yeah, I was looking at the original. I don't know how those got in there, but I was in your gallery of different examples of what you were doing. So go ahead.
So basically, you see this, like this building right here, okay? If you look at it, it's just a series of boxes that are put together, okay? You're dropping walls, and sometimes you'll slide in a panel that'll make a room. Sometimes you'll slide in glass to make a view, okay? These are what we call panelized, compact, modular houses, and you can stack them up 4 or 5 high without any problem. You put stairs, you can do portable lifts or elevators, whatever the case may be. These are all engineered, livable spaces, workable spaces, commercial spaces, whatever the case may be. And we can make these things by the thousands, okay? We can bring the cost down by almost 40% below a wood house, which is, a wood house is flammable. A wood house can collapse in an earthquake. A wood house can blow away in a big storm. A wood house has termites, all kinds of problems, and there's still 40% more than this, okay? And this will last 50 years at least. And if it starts to wear out, you take out the panels and you slide in some new panels, okay? So it's that easy. And the fact of the matter is, you can pick it up and move it around. If you're going to live in Chicago today and live in Miami tomorrow, you pick your house up, put it on a truck, and drive to Miami. It's just that easy.
Take it apart, pack it up.
There you go. Okay. Modular living.
Something here. They didn't teach us about this in the Three Little Piggies story, right? Because you had the sticks, you had, and then you had the brick. Where's the steel? You're right. The core of our earth is made out of steel. Where's the steel house? Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. And the other part of it is the environmental impact of all of this, because basically what we're trying to do is we're trying to make our houses as a zero carbon footprint as we can do. Yeah. We use bamboo that we can grow 3 or 4 times a year for the flooring. We use plant seed oil and other products for the insulation that can go all the way up to R30. We have LED lighting that uses a lot less power. We have all kinds of paneling, including magnesium oxide and hempcrete and all kinds of things that we can use that are zero carbon footprint. And that's where we're going. We're going here in the direction of environmental shelters that will sustain people far into the future.
And look how beautiful they are. It doesn't have to be ugly, right?
It doesn't have to be ugly.
No.
Can we also install solar panels in that?
Yes.
And these are three kinds of energy that we use normally in a packet, which would be solar, wind, and hydrogen fuel cell, so that we can mix the three of them and have enough power to drive heat and air conditioning, as well as water heaters and things like that. Because the normal life, people use microwaves, they use a refrigerator, heaters with coils use a lot of power. So you've got to bulk up on your power sources. And we don't use much lithium because lithium is very volatile. Lithium will blow up on you. But the hydrogen fuel cells, they're also kind of volatile, but you can put them outside or whatever you can, but they're much more efficient than anything else that we've seen.
Yeah,
so we're looking at all the different, alternatives for this future living.
There's more in the gallery. I've stopped. These are the pretty views. I mean, look at the view, and it's cost effective, and it's smart engineering. Yeah. It's not complicated engineering. It's very smart. I mean, brilliant. Go ahead,
and you look at what is
the ideal temperature for these houses?
I'm sorry?
What is the ideal temperature for these houses? Because in India, I mean, if you go up north, we have like -7 or -8, and then in some places we have around 110 or maybe 115 degrees Fahrenheit.
That's all about insulation, my friend, and insulation is an art by itself. Okay, and right now most of the insulation that people are using, like are
R40
chemical. They're synthetic. They're toxic. If they get hot, they burn. We use nothing but biodegradable materials that are non-flammable, and we can bulk it up so that the inside of that house will be like being inside of a thermos jug. Okay, I mean, it is. You don't need an air conditioner in Saudi Arabia or in the north of India if that wall is 4 inches thick, full of non-toxic insulation.
Take a look at this, for example. It's got the solar, it's got good windows, which you can get good airflow. It's very, it's not again, this is probably not intended for the people. It's intended to help people get from homeless into a home, right?
That's exactly true. Exactly true.
So when you've got one solar panel, and I know this because I got a solar panel research business that I'm doing, and I actually have got one solar panel running my shed. And the reason is that in North Carolina and a couple of other states, it's illegal to go off grid unless you let the power company do it, and they charge you $85,000 to install your solar panel. I know, right? But if I do it and I go full off the grid, I can be arrested. So I don't go full off the grid. But it's one panel. I've got a smaller panel than this. My panel is the size of a suitcase, can run a full 3-bedroom house, including pump water, and the pressure being what you would have in a house to flush a toilet or anything else. So there are systems out there that exist that are very affordable, but they don't let you see that, and they don't want you near it. But what you're doing, I love this, because this person doesn't have to rely on the power company bill, doesn't have to, this can be a completely off-grid solution.
Self-sustained solution.
We're doing 2 projects for homeless veterans. The big project we're doing here in Lancaster, California. Now that's in the middle of the desert, okay, high desert. Okay. We're doing 447 units with 8 grow-tainers, so they can grow their own food inside. Okay? With grow lights and all that sort of thing, and hydroponically. And there are 2 sides of the project. One side is for married veterans with children, and the other one is for single veterans. And then there's a small grocery store and a coffee house, and it's all it's a smart complex. So we've got a couple of engineers, like unkitted engineers, that are out there, wiring it up and getting all the latest technologies in there. And it sits there in the middle of the desert, okay? And it's got 1,000 people moving in there the end of this year, okay?
Wow.
That are are all homeless. Okay, they're going to live in a brand new house. Okay, and this thing is half the price of a wood house, and it's going up like case an example. If you look over in Fukushima in Japan, or down in Wuhan where they had the outbreak, if you see those portable buildings, those portable hospitals, and those portable houses, we did those through our factories in China.
Wow.
And we put 1,000 units out there, 1,000-room hospital in 10 days.
Yeah, yeah, I read about that. You can this kind of portability, you can stack, build it any way you want. I want one for the garden. So I'm tired of my garden just being the summer, and hydroponic. Again, hydroponic is another conversation. I would love to have you come on the show and share with us how you're doing this in the communities, because I love that way of growing. You don't have to have perfect soil. So,
Kim, I would like to invite Holmes on Wednesday, because on Wednesday we start with the Pod Hotel, a guy who is having a Pod Hotel in Hong Kong.
A pod
and
hotel.
How they Pod Hotel, and then we have Mia Pods where they create a lot of small pod boutiques. And then also we have a payment guy joining us at 1 p.m. So if you're available on Wednesday, I would like to invite you, and we can have a detailed discussion on that.
Well, he talks about everything. Yeah. So, something that when I see your square housing, I was on board a solar boat, a solar yacht that is square just like that. It's above ground. I can't find the picture right now, but it's fully solar powered, nothing else. I don't know if you've been there when you've been in Miami, but beautiful home, all windows, very smartly built. One of the things I like about a steel built home is you have less problems with insects. And one of the things I guess my son learned when he was living in New York was about the bed bug problems, right? So when he came back home, believe me, he got the horrible experience. Whatever steel he could put in, right? No wood, no fiber product, nothing, right? Can we steal the bathroom? Yeah, go ahead, put it whatever you want. If steel plate, everything. I want a home like this. I would love to have one like that. It's easier to care for. No painting. Just.
One of the caveats of living in a steel structure, is water. Because water is the cancer of steel. Okay, so if the steel is not protected or coated with the right product, the steel would contract cancer. That's why you see all of these old containers; they're all rusty and falling apart or whatever. It's because the water will erode the metal. Okay, so what we have done is we've done exhaustive research. One of my partners, Mark, is an expert in coatings. Okay, so he knows all about the different coatings and all the different things that you can use for steel, because he did the coatings for very expensive cars, sports cars, things like that. So he knows all the different coatings for steel. And so what we basically have done is we've developed this whole line of products to protect our steel for 100 years. So once these things are coated, they're done. Okay. Plus, there's another coating that you can put on there that will be antiviral, so no virus can get in. Okay. The virus, is just like kryptonite for the virus. It won't come into your house. It's been sprayed on to the steel. Okay, so that penetrable. You're living in a healthy house.
And bugs can't eat it. Termites can't chew into it. Bugs can't. So that, again, I know you guys go, Kim, calm down with the bugs. But I want to share with you about steel. And one of the things I learned about how it can become so durable is I own what we call a Wi-Fi tower, but it's also a ham radio tower, right? We took, but it's a 120-foot tower antenna. And it never rust. Never, not an ounce of rust. It was built out of a special aluminum alloy built for airplanes. And we took that same aluminum alloy. That's what we were doing. We're learning how to build out Wi-Fi towers that would last a lifetime. And so I actually have one in my yard, and it's been there a long time. Never one, but it's hurricane resistant, right? So like you were saying, these steel homes, they're hurricane storm resistant. You had to find that means to keep them from rusting, and it does exist. And I know it exists because I got one in my front yard for 20 years and it's never rusted. I'm just telling you, I believe in it. If I could rebuild my home today with what you're doing, I would. I mean, I get tired of painting every 5 years. I have a brick house, right? I was the third pig. There was no such thing as the fourth pig. We need to rewrite the book, Holmes. Let's rewrite the book for the kids today, right?
Who's going to be the big bad wolf?
I've got plenty of big bad wolves. I'm from wolf country. I'm from North Carolina University. Plenty of big wolves. But let's do
talking about, you're from North Carolina, are you?
Yes, sir.
So we're doing a project in North Carolina right outside of Raleigh.
We're outside of Raleigh. Where?
Nick just moved to Raleigh.
I just moved to Raleigh.
Producer. Nick just moved.
Well, there's we're discussing it as we speak, but there's a university out there, a community college.
Right.
And my friend, his name is Chip, he owns 165 acres adjacent to the community college, and he has a factory out there that he used to make wooden modular housing with. And he closed the factory. Now he's trying to sell that factory. And they introduced him to me, and we started talking because he's got a big sympathy for homeless veterans,
right?
Just like we do out here. So so he wanted to dedicate this land to these homeless veterans. Right. He didn't have kind of a strategic plan of what to do. So that's when he and I started talking about this project. And so, you know that North Carolina is the third most populated state in the United States in veterans.
Yeah.
I did not know that, but I would not be surprised.
Fayetteville, if you look at what we do in Fayetteville, because Fayetteville is a big home for a lot of things that people don't know about besides the military. But yes, we are.
Every year, the Camp Lejeune and Fort Bragg, and there's a couple of Air Force bases there. They release 12,000 veterans
every year
out of the service. They're coming out of the service. So what we want to do is we want to put a community like the one we're building here for 1,000 of them out there on that property, and then make a modular small occupational school there and teach them how to make their own affordable housing. And then we'll use that empty factory to as an assembly place and as a training camp for all these people to learn to be an electrician, learn to be a plumber, to learn a skill where they can make more money than a doctor. Okay, so
they do quite well, right?
Is that community college Wake Tech?
I believe so.
Wake Technical College. So I know I know a big funder there from Emerson, the president of Emerson, right? He's big on funding. So maybe we can kind of,
if it's Wake Tech is absolutely huge. People don't know that.
They were the first to install. They were the first to install solar energy in their school and let their students do it. That produces energy for the school. They were the first school to do this.
Holmes. Wake Tech has 70,000 students.
That was my first degree.
That's not the right place.
That's what I'm saying. A community college. It's got to be somewhere else outside the area.
Well, there's other community colleges around here. That's the most scientific community college in Raleigh.
Yeah,
that is the most. So,
but there has been studies that we have insufficient new housing starts in the United States. They're not building new housing, which is going to create a big problem.
Well, he's got the idea, but you missed part of the conversation. But Holmes, meet Nick Palaveda. Nick Palaveda is one of the founding fathers of IBM TV and senior executive producer. And
hi, Nick. How are you?
I'm doing great. I know I don't have
councilman in the PAC area, Pacific Rim, but also he's an entrepreneur. But here's the reason I'm so happy to see Holmes here is our paths kept crossing since December. I kept bumping, and I know he doesn't remember me. I'm just a small person around there, but I kept bumping into him going, wow, I got to have coffee with this guy. And so because you just seem to know everybody, and the more I got to know about what you were doing in your projects for the veterans and everything was just, it's just amazing. And then you end up working with Henning on projects, and I'm like, okay, we got to meet now. So,
Holmes, you work with the Henning Morales?
The Henning Morales, yes.
The Hemming. Henning is
Henning
Morales. It's like the Ohio State University, the Henning Morales.
We all love Henning. We're a big fan of Henning and his missions. And,
Holmes, are you in Los Angeles? Are you in LA?
Yes, I'm in Los Angeles. Yes.
Wow.
Henning is a fellow that the eternal optimist.
Right.
You cannot find anything about him that's not positive.
Oh, really? Okay. He believes in the power of positive thinking, eh?
Everything is positive. He's always on it. He's always lit up. He's always excited. Love to be around him. He's just a little fire plug. And he's great.
So he writes a book, but even his children, that's how positive he is. This is written by have you seen this book? No,
I haven't.
His twins. So that you can see how positive he is through his children's eyes, right? Oh, wow. So that's when you meet someone and you go, wow, even their children exude that positive. You're right, he does. I love I've been on set with him and I love his energy. It's just
I like his positivity for sure, 100%.
Yeah.
It starts with your enthusiasm and your positivity. That's where it starts.
That's true. So what are you guys doing over in LA with COVID-19? Is Los Angeles shut down, or are you open for business, or what's going on?
Yeah, we're still inside. I'm still inside. I've been here since February.
Really?
I was actually in February. I was actually in North Carolina.
Oh, really? Okay. All right.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Kings Mountain, as a matter of fact.
Kings Mountain. I love Kings Mountain. Oh my gosh. My dad did a land project there. Is that where you're building the project?
Well, we have bought a building down there. We have a building
there. Okay. Oh my gosh, my dad did a land project there. That is so weird.
Very pretty there. Very pretty part of the country.
I think Lynn needs to leave.